Hey guys, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm super excited to be here because this is my first time giving a talk in Asia. The title of today's talk is Code Review, a software engineer's best friend, which means we'll spend the next 30 to 35 minutes talking about, well, obviously code reviews, and more importantly, why I think they're software engineer's best friend. Before we jump into the details of today's talk, I would like to take a minute and tell you a few things about myself. My name is Goce. I live and work in Washington, D.C. I currently work and have been working for a home and security automation company called alarm.com for the last 6 years. I initially started as a junior developer, transitioned through all the senior roles, and I currently lead a team of several iOS and Android developers. The motivation for this talk actually comes from the influence code reviews had on me through each stage of this career. So with all that said, let's take a look at what we have on the agenda for today.
I divided the talk into 4 categories. First, we'll formally introduce code reviews, see why they are important and why we should be using them. Once we have defined code reviews, I'll talk a little bit more about how important it is to know who the review is for. We'll talk a little bit more about fresh college graduates and people that don't have much experience. In the third section, we'll focus a little bit on team leads and how they can use code reviews to motivate and train their team. And finally, we'll finish the talk by I'll share some of my best practices with you when it comes to code reviews. So what is a code review? I'm actually going to read this definition because I quite like it, and it describes things very well. It is an activity in which a developer, other than the author, examines a software deliverable for defects and improvement opportunities. What does this mean? These are all fancy words for 2 things. Code reviews catch bugs early in the development process. The sooner you catch the bug, the easier it is to fix it and the cheaper it is to fix it. And the second thing that code reviews are is making sure that your code is following industry or company standards. So, but that's not just it. Code reviews are simply not a tool for catching bugs and following procedures. They can also be a very powerful tool, powerful teaching tool if they're used properly. For instance, how many of you use code reviews to train new people on your team? I definitely add people on my team to review code. So that was the formal definition of code review. There also exists a not so formal definition of code reviews, which is given on the screen here. And for those of you that do not know what the Boy Scout rule is, it actually tells you that you should leave the campground in a much cleaner state than you initially found it, so that the next set of campers that comes finds a clean place where they can camp. And similarly with code reviews, you should clean up the code so that the next developer that works with your code finds code that's easily extensible and manageable. Code reviews are definitely not new. They've been here for a long time, since the beginning of the industry. And I spent some research trying to find some statistics that I can share with you guys today. I made some research looking for the first code review ever done, and this is what I found. I'm not very religious, but I think this is Moses getting his 10 commandments reviewed, and judging by the look on his face, he is not very happy about this code review. He's probably getting a lot of comments that he'll have to address later on. Going back to newer times in quotations. This is 1969. On the picture on the left, you can see Margaret Hamilton opening a pull request on GitHub for the Apollo mission. And for those of you that do not know what the Apollo mission is, it's basically the group of people, the software that took the United States to the moon. A couple of interesting facts about the Apollo mission are that software was submitted by one person. Well, obviously, you can see that. And it was reviewed by 6 other people. The source code had 65,000 lines of code, although it seems like a lot more than 65,000 lines of code to me, judging by that book stack. And more importantly, there were no files without comments, and nearly half of the lines contained a comment, which makes me kind of think how, how did they review this? Well, maybe like this. Honestly, I cannot imagine how they reviewed it, but currently the code is available on GitHub, and I encourage you to take a look. And I did take a look the other night, and I found some interesting things. I saw that the code is very readable, and it should have been readable. If you have to review all those books, then you better write code that's readable. There were plenty of comments, so it was easy to follow. And I did find some comments which were quite interesting, not just comments that are helpful. So there was a comment that said, temporary, I hope. Well, obviously nothing in software, nothing that you do is temporary. So whenever you write code, keep that in mind. And I saw this function, this comment saying, burn, baby, burn, which I found quite funny because this was a comment left on the function that was starting the main ignition engine. So, whenever you call that function, a rocket launches. And most importantly, this was 1969. The United States was in a race to win the cosmic race. So there were billions of dollars at stake, and they didn't have much time. But they did follow good practices, and they ended up reviewing their code, and the mission was successful. So even though we see that code reviews are important and done by teams when they don't have much time, it's not uncommon to see small startups or teams of 1 or 2 people to overlook the code review process. You might ask me why that is, and I'm not sure. I don't really have a good answer. Maybe because they're too small, but if they do end up becoming the next tech giant, then they'll end up paying technical debt that they never intended to pay. So the sooner they start reviewing their code, the better it will be for them. Also, if your application is processing any sort of credit card transactions, you are required by law, at least in the United States, to have some sort of a formal process of reviewing code. So now that we see what code reviews are, why they are important, let's talk a little bit about new college graduates, people that don't have industry experience, and how code reviews affect them. What can we say about fresh college graduates? Well, they're super excited, right? They've spent 4 years at a college studying very hard, spending a ton of money, and it's finally time to, cash in that college degree. They've landed this cool job with awesome perks, and they're excited and happy to change the world one line of code at a time. That's awesome, but they're inexperienced, and that can hurt things. For instance, they don't know the code base well. whenever maybe they were not introduced to unit tests. You know, when you're at school, all you do is make sure you pass your exams, do your homework, and you'll do fine. Industry is quite different. So whenever they land a job, they're faced with code reviews, and if somebody doesn't do the code reviews properly for them, they might take them in a wrong way. They might feel that they are criticized. They might realize that code reviews are a bad thing and not their best friend. Essentially, no school teaches you about code reviews, and no school teaches you about work ethics. However, you will find these new fresh college graduates writing a lot of code, probably even more code than senior developers, and that's because senior developers are busy, you know, fighting with UX about the design, talking to product, and making sure they don't write crazy specs. But what senior developers spend a lot of time on are code reviews, and as a senior developer, you should use code reviews to your advantage to train your team and make sure they are delivering the best software that they can write. With that, I actually want to walk you through my first experience with code reviews. I landed a job at a small startup right out of college, which had around 10 people, and there were 2 senior developers. One of them I'm going to call the bad developer, and another which I'm going to call the good developer. So I get my first task, and you know, I spent some time working on it. I create a pull request and I assign it to the bad developer. And what can I tell you? He did pretty much everything wrong. I felt like I was destroyed on the pull request. It was all negative comments. There was nothing constructive in the pull in the comments. It was all negative. He framed commands. He framed feedback as commands as opposed to requests. So it really felt like working for Gordon Ramsay. And for those of you who do not know who Gordon Ramsay is, he's this amazing chef that knows how to cook well, but he's a terrible and arrogant leader, and nobody would want to work from him. Most importantly, what the bad developer didn't realize was that this was my first baby. You know, I worked very hard to deliver this code, so he should have been very careful in how he provides feedback. So how did I take all of this? Well, I took it very personal. I felt like I was being judged instead of my code. My ego was hurt. In addition, I felt threatened. I started questioning myself, like, can I even do the job? Can I even code? Why did I spend tens of thousands of dollars in college? And, you know, I was a straight A student, so I should be good. And I started hating my job. You know, I would commute for an hour and a half, work very hard, and for what? Just to be taken down, tell me I cannot write code well. So things didn't end well. Like, what did I do? Well, I was inexperienced. So instead of confronting him, instead of talking to him that he is not really helping him, I started avoiding him. And sometimes I think what I would do different, and I would like to hear at the end of the presentation what you would do. But I did start avoiding him, and I started assigning my pull request to the other senior developer. And he did things quite differently. He would provide comments that were tied to principles, such as, can you use a factory method here? Can you refactor this so that it's more scalable? He would not resolve conflicts using his authority. Rather, whenever a conflict arises, he would ask for a third opinion. Furthermore, he would suggest things. He would create this collaborative environment. He would say stuff like, do you think we should change this? Can we improve this? And that way I felt like I'm part of a team. I felt like I'm included. I realized that this code is not being judged. I mean, the code is being judged, not me. The code is owned by the team, not the individual. And he would provide plenty of examples, which was super helpful for a new developer coming out of college. So how did I take all of this? Well, of course, I didn't take it personal, right? I realized that code reviews are not a blame game, but they are a constructive environment where we both have the same goal. We try to prevent bugs early in the development process, and we want to write code that's easily scalable and won't give us any headache in the future. I didn't feel threatened. I felt like I have a mentor who can help me. I felt like if I do something wrong, I have the team to back me up, and I have my good developer to help me. And I started loving my job, right? I have somebody from who I can learn, somebody who can help me grow and become a better engineer. So I was happy to go to work. I like this quote by Isaac Newton because this is exactly what the good developer did for me. If not for him, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you guys about code reviews. He really changed my life for the better and made me love my job. And I ended up staying in the company for several years just because of him. With that, I would like to focus a little bit more on the good developer. What did he do right to make me love my job? What should you do as a team leader to make your engineers love their job and show up every day at work with a smile and be happy? The good developer had 3 simple rules for success. People like praise, give them praise. In other words, whenever they do something good, acknowledge that and tell them they did things well. The code is owned by the team, not the individual, and I cannot agree with this more. You should create an environment where people think that they're trying to solve a problem together, not by themselves. Because if they do end up leaving the job, then the team inherits their quote unquote crappy code. And finally, love your developers, but do not trust them. I'll show you what this means in a little bit. Let's start with the first. Let's start with the first rule. I would like to walk you through an example and explain why this is important. This is a picture of me and my girlfriend, which was taken exactly 1 year ago. During Christmas, we went out to have dinner, and my girlfriend bought a new coat and a new scarf. So imagine if the restaurant is a pull request and the change set is my girlfriend's new coat and scarf. And imagine that I am the code reviewer. Can you tell me how she would feel if I would only provide negative comments? What would happen if I only pointed out the things that she did wrong with her outfit and not tell her how to fix them? Like if I say, I don't really like this color, or this scarf is too big. Well, probably something like this. I am guessing this is the best case scenario. I don't even want to imagine what the worst case scenario would be, but they didn't end up like this. Similarly, whenever the author-reviewer relationship is very fragile, and if you just provide negative comments, then that will hurt the author-reviewer relationship. Try to find at least one positive thing to say, and there's always at least one thing that they did well that you can acknowledge. For instance, you can say stuff like, great job on refactoring this. Thank you for writing a unit test. You know, everything looks great. This is awesome. But if you've worked with somebody for a few years, try not to overdo it because it becomes silly. But regardless, they'll be appreciative of you appreciating them, basically. I'll use another example for the second rule, which is teamwork. The good developer was a fan of President Obama's campaign. His logo was "Yes, yes, we can," and I stress the word "we" here. Can you imagine what would happen if the logo of his campaign was "Yes, you can"? Well, obviously he wouldn't win the election, right? Because "you" implies that the work is on you, not on him. Whereas when he says "we," it means that we are in this together. Similarly, a good team leader should replace the word "you" in code reviews with the word "we." I think saying something like, "Can we change this line of code here?" sounds much better than "Can you change this line of code here?" If you use the word "we," that creates a collaborative environment, which makes the author of the pull request think that you are in this together, even though they might be the ones doing all the work. And I do think that the code is owned by the team, because as I mentioned earlier, if the author of the code ends up leaving the company, then the team members will inherit his code. Finally, the third rule, love your developers, but do not trust them. The good code reviewer did not trust any of us. What does this mean? This means that you should pull down the branch, be a quality engineer and test it. Whenever you're reviewing, use the IDE and GitHub, because the IDE can actually give you warnings, unused variables, things that need to be changed that GitHub doesn't really ask you to change. And do ask the author of the pull request to address warnings, because warnings have the potential of becoming bugs. Well, it is only a matter of time before they become errors. I actually want to show you a very short video of what happens when there's too much trust in one team. Hopefully the audio works. If it doesn't, it's fine. There's not much conversation. So let me play this.
Shit. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm reading.
So this is exactly how bad things happen. This is exactly how you break production and how companies end up with huge problems. This is a team that has way too much trust. If you, as the tech lead, have no idea what you're reviewing, it is your job to find out what you're reviewing. Take your time with the review. You are the leader. It's up to you to make sure that the job is done properly. So, like I said, don't trust your developers. We've reached the last section of my talk, which is some of the best practices that I am using with my team, which build upon the three rules of success for the good that the good developer plays. I think code is definitely better than words, especially if you are a new developer. I think providing your new developers with plenty of examples will be beneficial for them. If I find myself needing to write a lengthy description of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, I end up creating a pull request or providing the code in a comment, and the discussion happens inside the new pull request. So that way, if we agree on the changes, all they need to do is pretty much merge the changes, and this is super helpful for them. Copy and pasting the code they're very happy when they don't need to do anything. However, be very careful. If you follow this method, make sure you write production-ready code, because people get lazy and then they might just copy and paste something that's not in its best shape or form. If the code is better than before, approve it. This is somewhat a controversial rule. However, I wouldn't say it's controversial. I would say that it's incomplete. I think it should say like this: if the code is better than before, approve it only if you have a process in place that addresses technical debt. Oftentimes you are faced with short deadlines and you need to deliver something very fast. And although you might agree with the reviewer or the author that the changes are not the best, that they can use some improvements, but given the short time you have to merge them, it's okay to clean up the code a little bit later. With my team, we have a so-called maintenance week, where each team member rotates and spends a week working on tasks that just clean up code and address technical debt. So I highly recommend this maintenance week. In a very short amount of time, you'll end up refactoring a lot of code. As a team leader, you should promote clarity. I think vague comments are not helping anybody. If you want something to be done in the current pull request, make sure you explicitly say so. If there's something that can be done later, say that we can do that later. Or if there's something that's kind of nice to have, but not a necessity, indicate that it's a nice to have. If they have time, they can implement it. This is a real example. This is a comment that I got recently from SpongeBob, and I don't really know what he wants. Does he want me to change this? When does he want me to change it? Now? Later? I don't know. He should be clear. I think the larger the request, the slower it is for the review. Good PRs adhere to the single responsibility principle. So try to have small tickets and very focused tickets. You can see that in this pull request that I received, there were 64 changed files and over 3,000 lines of code added. It took me days to find the courage to even look at this pull request. And it took me weeks to actually review this. So the longer the PR, the more tiring it is for the reviewer and the harder it is to review it. And of course, try to have discussions before the pull request. Pull requests are not really a place for long architecture discussions. Those things, planning, should happen before you even start writing code. I think patience is a virtue. When it comes to hot fixes, it is your job as a leader to not rush it. I've seen this with new people. Whenever they break something in production, it's only a matter of time before they do. Sooner or later, something will get broken, no matter how many guards you put in place, no matter how many unit tests you have. There will be a phone that doesn't work properly, doesn't behave as expected. And I see these new developers trying to rush you because they think their job is at stake. I know that production is broken. It has been broken for a few hours, but it can be broken for another hour. You have to remain with a cool head and make sure you cover all the corners. If you rush the review, you might not end up catching a potential bug, and actually fixing it again will delay the whole process even longer. So remain cool. Patience is truly a virtue. Nobody has time for manual checks. If you are using any sort of continuous integration, which you should, implement an automated code style check. This will make sure that your developers are writing the code in the same format and that they're following the standards that you place. And have the build fail if the style is not met. For instance, if you want them to provide comments, function comments on public functions, do that. That way you can focus on what the function is supposed to do, as opposed to the semantics. Did they put a comment? If they didn't put a comment, it will just fail. So make sure you'll focus on whether the function works properly or not. And we talked a lot about things that you should do, but I have one slide about things that you should not do or things that you should avoid. I think GIFs are very distracting, and I wish I could give this presentation in person so that I can see whether you're looking at the text on the screen or you're just looking at the GIF. I know that I could not take my eyes off the GIF, and I'm still staring at it. And similarly, if you use GIFs in code reviews, it ruins the focus. It's difficult to follow things, and all you end up doing is looking at the GIF. If you really want to provide a GIF, then my advice would be to put a link in a comment that will actually take you to the GIFs webpage. Emojis are okay. I like emojis. They're not as distracting as GIFs. Another big no in my book is using abbreviations, and I see this very often. You can see the examples at the bottom. They're actually real examples that I've encountered in the past. And even today, I don't know what some of them mean. As an author of a pull request, as an author of a comment, you might save 10 seconds for writing something like BAU instead of business as usual. Congratulations, you saved 5 seconds, but you just wasted 5 of my seconds. So don't do that. And finally, never approve something you don't understand. Tell your product that writing software is difficult. Make sure that if you do end up approving something you don't understand, then you increase the chances of breaking something that you've never even heard of. And I think that was in fact the last slide. We have 7 minutes for questions. So feel free to post them in the chat, and feel free to reach out afterwards. There are either no questions or I don't see them. Okay, I'm starting to see some questions now. Question number one, if we have a PR that has more than one code owner, do we have to review another code or just approve our code? I think you should stick to your code. I mean, there's obviously a reason why there's more than one reviewer on the pull request. So I would stick with what you know best and let the other people review their territory, their code. What are the code review tools you suggested for Android? I am not really sure what you mean by this question. I use the IDE, the IDE being Android Studio in this case, and Android Studio does a very good job of highlighting potential warnings, and yeah, that's pretty much what I use. What is the best way to improve code review culture on a team that has poor code review culture? That's an interesting question. First of all, do you do code reviews or you don't do them? I don't know. Maybe wait whenever an error happens and point out that things could have been caught by just reviewing the code, or start reviewing code and see whether that improves the quality of the code, whether you end up writing more unit tests, whether the code that you write ends up being more scalable. How to handle code review with experienced developers who are doing mistakes? They are not accepting it? That's an interesting question. Like I said before, I think the team owns the code, not the individual. So I would definitely include more than one person on the pull request. And I would try to get like a majority vote. So if you do end up suggesting something and they just ignore the comment, like ask them why they're not accepting the changes. And if they don't agree with the changes, then provide arguments why they are good and ask for a third or a fourth opinion. That way you can get a feeling of what the team wants and how things should be implemented. That way you don't get one person pushing their own way. Rather, you get what the team wants. Do your team usually review the work in progress pull request? Yes, we do. If somebody, I try not to review them. If I see a pull request and the ticket is still in development, I ask whether it is ready to be looked at. And if it is ready to looked at, I ask, like, why didn't you transition the ticket? But on some occasions, I do end up reviewing the code if there's a reason. Obviously, as a team lead, I get a lot of code reviews, so I try to only review whatever is ready to be reviewed and not in development. What do you think about pair programming as a way around code reviews? I like pair programming, but I don't think it's a replacement for code reviews. I think pair programming helps train people, helps solve the problem. You know, two heads are better than one, but code reviews should help you catch bugs easily. I mean, easier than pair programming. So I don't think the two are interchangeable. They're completely two different things. Do you use some tool for code review with the team? I just use the IDE and GitHub. We have unit tests running as part of the continuous integration. We have the build also checking whether the code style is met, and that usually helps a lot. I have more than one person on a pull request, and that helps us catch bugs in the process easily. Like if I miss something, somebody else might not. How to approach the code review if I have a branch feature with too many commits? Well, it's an interesting question. Like, why did you end up having a branch with too many commits? Why did the branch become so big in the first place? I think that's the real question. Maybe you should have branched more branches, like a nested hierarchy, so that reviewing them can be easier. I think I'm out of time. This is probably the last question. How many maximum code that's suitable on Android code PR include testing? If I understand the question correctly, you're asking like how big the pull request should be. I don't think there should be more than 400 lines of code to be reviewed. If it takes you more than an hour, maximum 2 to review it, then I think pull request is too big and it should be split. It's not an easy process, but these things should be planned in advance. There's one more question. In a pull request, how do you define your feedback comment should be addressed now, nice to have, and later by the author? Depends on what you use. I've used GitHub and Bitbucket, and in Bitbucket, it lets you, whenever you leave a comment, you can create a task. Similarly, in GitHub, you can indicate that this comment must be addressed, and that way it prevents you from merging the changes unless somebody checks the checkbox saying that this has been addressed. So that way you can say this must be done. If it is something nice to have, just say, you know, if you have the time, can you do this? If not, it's fine. We can merge it and maybe address it later during maintenance week or whatever process you have for addressing technical debt. Cool. I don't see more questions. Feel free to send me an email or reach out reach out on Twitter. I would love to hear more what you guys think of my talk. Thank you.